Well, hi, it's Paulie here, in the heat of summer. Watermelon hooch. All right, so I wanted to talk to you today about a little piece of absolute genius. This game is called Spirit of 77, and it seems like a weird idea for an adventure role-playing game, but this is wonderful. So, if you can imagine something that is based on every crazy crap yet way cool 70s adventure-y kind of series. So this is Dukes of Hazzard, this is Shaft, there's things like Dirty Harry, it's even things like Columbo, it's every weird detective show, action show, all of those kung fu shows, guys out there fighting the man. This is the game of that, Spirit of 77. Now, it runs off the Apocalypse engine. So, at its core is a very simple 2d6 mechanic. Effectively, roll 2 dice. 10 or higher, and you succeed at what you're doing, no consequences. 7 to 9, you succeed, but there are some kind of consequences. A piece of gear breaks, someone gets hurt, you take an injury, or, and we'll get to this in a moment, you'll take heat. So, the whole thing, does a wonderful job evoking through the whole rule book. The language, the hip, the cool. Now, what they have done is they have chosen 1977 for the setting. They provided everything that you need to kind of get into the whole geist of what is 1977. So sewn through the rules, they have pages from catalogues. They have lists of pamphlets from fast food places, so you can see what fried chicken's going to cost you, what's new down at your local electronic shack, what cool new things are for sale, what new fashions are for sale, what cars are in and out. So they've given you everything you need with essentially a cultural write-up, because of course younger players who weren't there and older players who've forgotten, it's got what's out there, why are these different cars suddenly available, why are muscle cars a thing, what music is current. And what's a really great thing about this is it encourages you to create a soundtrack for the whole game. And as you're reading through these, you are inspired not only to write down adventure ideas, but also accompanying music. It's like, yep, we've got our kind of, action chase on. You can hear it in your heads, and they've even got links to find this stuff. So, it's set in what could be a generic 1977, but they've provided like an alternative timeline where essentially Nixon stayed in. The reporters that were reporting on Watergate, mysteriously vanished, and evidence disappeared. Nixon stayed in, and he stayed in as like a power behind the throne. So even though there's new elections and new guys have come in, Nixon stayed in as Secretary of State, and he pulls all the strings. So this is a corrupt America where the man is even more corrupt than usual. There's organized crime out there. There's also a layer of sort of hidden super science, and it's up to you, the umpire, to decide where this came from. This could be stuff that's been developed from secret, German sciences in World War II and so on. This could be stuff from the Cold War. This could be alien tech that's come in. But this is where things like characters that are influenced by the Bionic Man and so on come from. This is X-Tech, and some bad guys could be using X-Tech. So we can go just from basically fighting in the mean streets or going on your kung fu journey to actually, fighting some serious, crazy X-Tech crime. So there's a beautiful list in the back of the books of the author's lists of inspiration, and it's full of things like Dirty Harry and Dukes of Hazzard and Starsky and Hutch. But interestingly enough, it's also got things like Jerry Anderson's UFO and Space 1999. So you could run this thing where there are secret government organizations fighting aliens. It's up to you. It's a big, wild, wonderful world. But what I love about this is the way the thing basically drags you completely into the setting. So to create a character, you pick a character type. You could be a basher. You're someone that you're a heavy hitter. You're out there. You're a mean fighter on the mean streets. You could be a flatfoot. You're a policeman. Out there, trudging around. You can be investigators. You can be rockers. You can be criminals, you can be gangsters, you can be good old boy kind of drivers. You pick all these sorts of things, and that is your type. But you then pick story. It's the second part, where you came from, and this gives you extra choices of character skills, character moves, and all this sort of thing. So this allows you to differentiate even between the same choices of career. You could have two characters that are, flatfoot or investigators, so they're gumshoe investigators. One can choose to be, he's an ex-con man, so he chooses con as part of his backstory. He's been in jail, or he's been on the wrong side of the streets. He can partner up with someone who's an ex-flatfoot. So one is the detective that's got, the old contacts in the department that can still run a plate for him and these sorts of things. The other one, he's the guy who still knows people on the streets, guys who owe him a favour and so on. So kind of a dynamic pair, and together they fight crime. So you choose these things and differentiate your characters this way. But what I really like is you then pick your buzz, and your buzz, that's what your character's all about. And your buzz is something, they say, that should be able to fit into the sentence, in a world gone mad, character X, blah, 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 blah. In a world gone mad, Foxy Malone is just looking for love. In a world gone mad, Bryce Ramper is fighting to keep the streets clean. These sorts of things. In a world gone mad, these good old boys just looking for good times. So, that gives you kind of your catchphrase. You also get hooks, which are your attachments to people and things. Now, these can be other characters that you're playing with, player characters, and that is encouraged, obviously. But you also gain points in play, experience and so on, if you do things that contribute to saving, protecting, serving your hooks. So you could have a hook to your Kung Fu master. You could have a hook to that orphanage that raised you, to your neighbourhood, to the kids of these streets, to that basketball team that you've been trying to make to keep those kids out of trouble. These are things you make hooks to. In play, as you contribute to your buzz and to hooks, you gain extra experience, obviously. So you set these things up. You also get your stuff, and as you're designing a character, you can pick iconic items that stay with you. So this could be your souped up car. Cars and rides and so on, very important. This could be your animal companion, for who does not go on a race clear across America without some kind of higher primate sitting in the seat next to them? Most of us do. I know I have. So yeah, Smokey and the Bandit, Every Which Way But Loose, this is all part of this. So you pick these things. It's a 44 Magnum, the hardest, the heaviest hitting firearm in the world. But a kind of a neat thing about the system is it's all in the player's hands. It's not really adversarial with the games master rolling against you. So if you get into, for instance, combat, you roll against your skills to hit. You can roll, if you are like a basher, a bruiser, you roll against your might and so on. However, if you're a Kung Fu master, obviously you can roll against your dexterity-based things. But when you are being attacked by NPCs, you just roll to avoid the damage. You can avoid it by basically being big and tough and just wearing it, or by dodging it away. But again, the onus is on you, the player. You roll to see if you take damage. And you try and avoid the damage. If you fail, the consequences come as injuries you take and conditions that you gain that make roleplay more difficult. Staying in the whole wonderful kind of 70s buzz of this thing, you get heat. Heat is great. Whenever you make those 7 to 9 rolls where you get consequences, one thing that can come onto you is heat. Heat can be expressed as stress, panic, as pressure on you. So that as a scenario continues and you've been succeeding at things, the umpire can actually, the clock is ticking. Someone's going to be spiriting those kids off, or someone's going to be, planting those drugs on your best mate any second, and he's going to be picked up by the fuzz. So you've got to move faster. So the heat is a negative to your dice rolls. So it makes it harder to pass, that the umpire makes as a one-use thing. But what's really rather cool is that you can also use heat to literally summon the heat. So the umpire can trash these points in to bring police attention on you, or bring gang attention, or criminal attention and so on you. So if you're trying to race across town to get to a scene that you need to be at, umpire can ask you, well, if you do trick driving and so on, you can get there in time before this happens. All right, you make a driving roll. However, it gets in that, say, 7 to 9 band, there's a consequence. The umpire can decide, okay, you've blown through a few red lights and a couple of cruisers saw you race past. You shook them, but now there's a call out on your car. So some heat is on you. And the umpire can kind of trash this heat in later on to have heavies turn up. Police start questioning people as to whether they've seen you. Police start turning up on the scene. Police put you, under the hot lights and grill you. Or, they try and put an APB out and arrest you. Likewise, this works for gangs and so on. Suddenly gang members start following you. Suddenly gang members start, looking after you. Or if it's, an evil criminal organisation complete with laser beams and, giant carnivorous sharks, their operatives start turning up. They send an assassin after you. So these kind of complications are built into the narrative that builds as you roll the dice. This is a wonderful, wonderful piece of work. Just the fact that it drags you in and the fact that those mechanics beautifully simulate all these sorts of things. Now, it's not just the frenetic kind of 70s kung fu bash or car chase. It also works really well for things which it cites directly in rules, things like Columbo. You've just got the flatfoot who's wandering around, he's asking his questions, the mechanics handle that particularly, even down to mechanics that allow you to gain some momentum as you do actions, and you save these points for a critical dice roll later. So if you're a Columbo style character, for instance, you come in, you observe this, you ask these questions, you ask these questions, you ask these questions, you gain some momentum. And then you get the doorknob question, which is always, as you remember, Columbo's most important one. Oh, sir, was it you that was actually there, or, the one that counts? And that's what you'll get the bonus on, and that's the information you really need. So there's some actual quite clever tactics in what seems to be a very, very simple dice roll system. So very, very clever. There's some great art in here. Some of this is inspired by kind of Mexican mask wrestlers and so on. Some of it's kind of Vietnam vets bashing people up. They've got some great other science fiction-y based art to bring you in. And lots of beautiful pictures of horrendous 70s fashion, 70s cars and all this sort of thing. Now, what they've done is they've provided the city. The city with the mean streets, generic, because, these things were often set in kind of a San Francisco or kind of an LA or kind of a Chicago. So they've done a generic city just for you to walk in and use, and it's got all its districts, it's got what the problems are, it's got what the gangs are, it's got what hidden things are in there, very simply. So you've got a whole campaign setting there in the basic rules. Another very cool thing, so there are a number of scenario booklets out for this. What I like about these is they're usually done as a double feature, so it's like grindhouse films. You've got 2 scenarios in them, and when these are printed books, often you flip them over. They're printed, in one direction one way, the other direction. So you buy these double features, and these are these amazing little scenarios. So they supported it quite well. But wackily enough, this is one of those things that as you read it, you will find yourself jotting down notes. So this is a lovely piece of work. It's a bit of a hidden gem. I'm not sure that many people have heard it. Hilarious one-shot scenario play, great campaign play. Check it out. You will absolutely split your sides laughing once you start getting into the language and the whole setting. This is absolutely golden. So anyway, Spirit of 77, great job to the designers. Go out and find it. Cheers.